Good morning, friends. Stephen Ben-Nun here with Israeli News Live, here on Patreon. And the information I'm going to be speaking about today is very serious, and I don't want to overstate the potentials of things that are coming our way, and I don't want to understate them either. And so with you guys here on Patreon, I share a lot of in-depth information that I learned from intelligence briefings. And you understand the fluidness of intelligence, and that's why we share that with you guys here. When we say fluid, it's because things change. Things are not always the same. And even when we're dealing with asteroids and meteorites, things like that, these things are fluid as well. And when I say that, one of the examples that I was given was the case of the asteroid that struck Jupiter on September 13th. And this Twitter video here, I'm going to share that video with you so you can see that. But this is just a very good example of what I was told. Now, let me back it up so you can see this. This was caught by both professional and amateur astronomers. You see that light up on there. That was a very large asteroid that struck the planet of Jupiter. I mean, just think about it. The size of Jupiter anyway, right? We know that Jupiter is like mega times the size of Earth. That impact, just the explosion, is, and I have no idea, I'm just guesstimating, probably the size of our moon. Well, we can see that it's the size of the moon around Jupiter. That's the shadow to the far right of Jupiter's moon, which can clearly be seen in the video as well, out to the right, tracking along the planet of Jupiter there. The asteroid's explosion size was the size of the shadow of Jupiter's own moon. So whatever size Jupiter's moon is, that is the size of that explosion. But the thing that I was told about this is that the impact that happened on Jupiter changes courses of even other debris that is in space itself. They said it was kind of like a pool table when you strike one ball in the pool table and then it knocks everything else around. It causes changes to happen. Just like, for example, we've got a near-Earth object coming, I think they say September 22nd, not supposed to hit the Earth. I think they say it's supposed to be 0.4 lunar distance away from the Earth. So it's like it'll come close to the Earth, but not to impact the Earth. But according to NASA, that's still close enough that our gravitational pull could actually cause this particular object to be drawn into Earth and actually hit the Earth as a result of that, because the gravitational pull causes that to change. So there's always variables out there. And the other thing that was shared with me is the meteorites that we're going to experience in October, that China has successfully diverted or destroyed about 100 of those. Now, October is not anything that is big. As I've said before, they're not planet killers, anything like that. We're talking about rocks. I think the biggest one that I was told about in October was the size of a washing machine, but it could create serious complications if one of those were to hit the right spot when we're talking about fault lines for earthquakes, things like that. Those could cause those type disruptions. China, very concerned about those rocks in October because of their own infrastructure could be compromised by an earthquake. And just like in the case of Jupiter, they tend to hit closer to equator areas. Puerto Rico has been brought up quite a few times, but unfortunately, Puerto Rico has got a heavy rock coming in, and that's part of the trio we've talked about for quite some time that would be coming in late November. Going to get into that in just a moment there. What I did want to share, though, with you before I go into the asteroid issue is the issue about the Canary Islands. Uh, this article here was actually shared on Twitter. I like the article for one reason: it balances things out for you. Although we hear so much in that the Canary Islands, if they go down, they could create a tsunami that would just be enormous. It would wipe out the east coast of the United States. And I know that threat is taken very serious with the scientists in the Pentagon, because I know that they're actually, some of these scientists that I know personally are doing evacuation plans with their families, because they say, unlike what we see in social media where you have 8 hours to be able to get out, they say you only have 2.5 hours to be able to get out from coastal areas or low-lying areas on the East Coast. If indeed it were a fact that the Canary Islands would turn into a landslide, that could create that kind of problem. And we already know that, and I'll come back to that article in just a second here. We already know that the swarms of the earthquakes, over 4,222 earthquakes that have affected La Palma, the Canary Island, that is where the volcano is coming up. It has come alive. I was told from folks in D.C. there that the lava can be seen in the caldera already, the actually shoot of the volcano. I'm assuming they're picking that up from satellite imagery there. And so they know this thing is about to erupt. Will it create a landslide or not? As I said, the scientists at the Pentagon are very concerned that it could, and that the probability is very high. I do know that, as I've shared with you before, Russia and China were planning, this is through intel where they've gathered this information, planning an event that would cause this earthquake to go off, setting off some things that would create this problem. I did get an update on that. Russia kind of excluded from that, but China, well, no comment about that. But China was very much actively involved, from what we can ascertain from this, in helping get this problem started here. And that may seem a little contradictory to some of the things I'll share with you on this broadcast here this evening, because there are those that believe that in the case of China, there's a lot of invested interest China has in the United States. But as John Moore said to me last night, the Canary Islands going down, causing tsunamis on our coastlines, will not really affect the investment that China is really after here in the United States, because he said, after all, they are after our farming abilities and being able to produce food for their people. That's what they're concerned about. And so therefore, if a natural disaster happens on our coastal lines, it's not as much of a loss for them, although maybe the investments they have in properties and things like that would certainly be a loss. But going back to this other article right here that was written by Dave Petley, Killing Off the Canary Islands Landslide Mega Tsunami Scare, they bring out some scientific research that not so much, it doesn't say that it would not happen, but there are scientists that question whether or not it really would be of that magnitude. And so I wanted to just bring in here and just show some of the things they say in the article. They put on here that the question, of course, refers to the scare of a few years ago based on a peer-reviewed paper that flank collapse of a Cumbre VA volcano on the island of La Palma in the Canary Islands could collapse, generating a mega tsunami that would initially be about 1,000 meters high and would still be 50 meters high when it reached, for example, the eastern seaboard of the United States. Now remember, 50 meters, that's about 150 foot. That's like a 15-story tall tidal wave that would hit the United States. It is fair to say that my experience there is agreement that such a flank collapse could occur. All right, so they do talk about in the article, it could occur. And there is a lot of evidence that such events have happened in the past. They concede that as well. but the level of support for the mega tsunami hypothesis is, shall we say, somewhat lacking within the scientific community. There is a nice evaluation of the work by Dr. George Perales Carianis, which concluded that the threat of a mega tsunami generation from a collapse of the oceanic island stratovolcanoes has been greatly overstated. No mega tsunami can be expected. That's his synopsis. And now the thing that I do take a little bit of issue on this particular article and that statement there is that when they say somewhat lacking within the scientific community, because I actually communicate with scientists with the Pentagon, and it's not every scientist, arguably, but they also believe that it is a very real possibility. And in fact, they do projections of what they expect to happen. This is why they know that you only have about 2.5 hours. That's one of the projections. I've been told that pretty much everything from a tsunami, from a collapse of the island would create basically a 100-mile inland disaster for the east coast of the United States. So, I appreciate the fact that they don't believe that this would actually occur. And so it gives us a balanced view to look at this. But at the same time, I'm being instructed to make sure that my phone is at my bedside at night at all times, so that any type of immediate notice that would go out about a collapse, that I could be notified immediately. And of course, I'm not in a danger zone, but that helps me to get information out to you that this thing has actually indeed gone down. Not to say that you couldn't get the same type of warning, but if in the event there are things that have been cut off, whether buoys have been disabled for some reason to where we are not getting warnings otherwise, I'm able to at least update you the best way that I could. Not to say that you're going to have Israeli News Live up on your screen all hours of the night, but that was theoretically that's the issue we're looking at. Anyway, they go on to say here though in the article, and this is the part I do appreciate, is that the breaking off of La Palma, these scientists believe would happen at a slower rate. So it says in the, let's see here. Let me get down here. Now, they're going to quote here what they consider to be ridiculous here. So unfortunately, despite these rebuttals, the story has had remarkable traction. Take this page on Virginia media, for example. They're going to social media now, which has thus a wonderful image showing the big tidal wave coming into the east coast of New York there. A colossal wave caused by a chunk of rock of the size of the Isle of Man breaking off in La Palma in the Canary Islands will one day devastate southern Europe and the entire east coast of America. Scientists believe that this disaster is already way overdue. When it does come, it will cause a mega tsunami that will hit the power of an atomic bomb, traveling the speed of a jumbo jet. Starting off at 2,000 feet, the giant wave will still be 150 feet high, and by the time it reaches the other side of the Atlantic, destroying everything in its wake and affecting up to 100 million people. Now, this is the way they respond to it. Given the ridiculous of this sort of statement and our worse examples out there, it is good to see a new paper that erodes the case for the mega tsunami still further. This paper, Hunt et al. In 2013, has just been published in the Journal of Geochemistry, Geophysics, and Geosystems. Sadly, the article is behind a paywall, but the paper presents a very detailed analysis of the deposits left on the seafloor by Canary Island flank collapses. The research is meticulous, comprehensive. The authors note that the seafloor deposits record 8 volcanic flank collapse events, the largest of which was about 350 cubic meters. However, the key element is that each deposit is formed from a series of subunits, each of which can be clearly differentiated from the subunits based on the geochemistry and the materials that they contain. So the interpretation by the authors, which sounds very sensible to me, is that each subunit represents a different phase of the collapse event. In other words, each of these major collapses did not occur as a single or coherent block, but as a series of sections, one after the other. If you want an analogy, then what better example than the famous 1993 Pantel Remis landslide in Malaysia? Now, basically what the article is going to go on to say is that they anticipate that La Palma would break off and it would slowly slide into the ocean. It would not be a rapid, sudden, accelerated collapse. And if that were to be the case, it's true. We would not have some kind of mega tsunami. But the problem is we don't know which way that will be. Will it be a sudden collapse or will it not be a sudden collapse? And this is why there is a concern even with scientists at the Pentagon, is that there's still the potential it could be a sudden collapse. And nonetheless, that would create havoc for the East Coast there. Now, let me take you into the meeting that we had last night, because we also got into the very serious situation of the asteroids. So I'll just kind of leave this up here for you that are coming in. And as I said to you, we still have the ones coming in October, even though China has successfully diverted or destroyed about 100 of these things. And we still got time for more of those to be taken out. And of course, the United States is also supposed to be working on that. But China's been a little bit peeved off with the United States, saying that it looks like that we're not really doing a whole lot to help stop some of these rocks coming in. But I was also told that the rocks that are coming in October, they have the space program has discovered life in the form of bacteria on some of these rocks. I have no clue how they managed to pull that off, but that is what they're saying there. I also wonder sometimes, though, if this is not only setting us up for, let's say, another engineered virus for them to put out there. But anyway, they are saying that there are on these rocks there bacteria has been discovered, as well as viruses. And if it enters our atmosphere, then we are looking at a bacteria that no one has ever been able to build up a resistance to on the planet, because it would be totally alien to what we've ever experienced here, which would indeed really create a problem on the planet if that is to be true. But at any rate, there we go along, and as I said, China has diverted about 100 of these already. And they feel like that they're the only ones that are trying to divert these at this point. So they're really upset about that with the U.S. and say the U.S. is not doing anything to stop the asteroids from coming. However, the size of one of the belts that are coming in, or the size of this belt that is actually coming in, regardless of what they have taken out, there's just no way to stop everything from coming in. So we still are going to have these rocks coming in October. But remember, October does not have large rocks in it. It has the smaller type, but they can create sonic booms, things like that. The concern that scientists mainly have is that of tipping the scales of seismic activity. And again, the area of Puerto Rico is a targeted area. China is a targeted area with these that are coming in October, and also around Greenland. The North Pole region there is another targeted area for the rocks that are coming in. So that was one thing that we've been hearing about that. But in November, I've talked to you guys quite a bit about November, late November, from what I've been told, and I have been constantly updated on this, that until we get closer to that time, we don't know the exact time of impact. And I know there's a lot of people who say that's just not true. They know, like, for example, Halley's Comet and things like that. But as it's been said to me, we're dealing with so many issues that we've never dealt with before right now, that the fluidness of how and when these things are coming in are changing, because their paths are changing. The heat changes it. Gravitational pull changes it. There's so many variables that we don't know for sure, but pretty close to that time frame they're looking at. But they've said to me now that the ones that are coming in November, these were the three that I told you about originally, are coming in what they call heavy. That means they've not been able to do anything with them as of yet. It does not say that they are not still actively trying to do something about these three rocks that are coming in. I do know, though, I have been told, though, now, I know all three of them where they're projected to hit. Subduction zone off the coast of California was the one that you've heard about most. Also, Puerto Rico, again, near Puerto Rico. I don't think we're looking at impact on land. I think these are still hitting waters, but near that area is the second one. And the third one, I've been told, would affect South America, but I've still not been given any specific location for South America. But the fact that they're coming in heavy, as I said, means that they're kind of losing hope of being able to do something with them. The one, though, that would hit near Puerto Rico, Haiti type area there, I was told that this would affect Florida, that they're anticipating about half the state of Florida being affected by this. So pretty much from Miami, the Keys, all the way up to Orlando is going to be majorly impacted by that particular hit, as well as 100 miles inland going up through Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. And this has to do with basically the tsunami that it would create. I do not have any idea the size of tsunami that it would create. This is just what I have heard, that would be the case on that. So let me just see here on some of the notes that I have here. Going back to the part about the fluidness, it says there are other planets that affect the incoming stones, whether heat, magnetism, they affect each other, just as in the case of when Jupiter got hit recently with that asteroid there. So that's what we're facing on that. And by the way, going back to La Palma, I was told, though, that if in fact we were to get a large enough landmass drop into the ocean from La Palma, that this would also affect Italy, that it literally would drag down the southern part of Italy if indeed La Palma were to have a large enough landmass landslide, that it would actually affect Rome. And I think, especially if you have a situation where it affects Rome, and that's what kind of makes this a little bit more suspicious, is that China being involved in creating this situation in the Canary Islands with the hope that it would bring about these types of disasters, that would make it more suspect that Israel would be involved in that as well, because Israel continually pushes that Rome is Esau and that Rome is going to be judged. And I think of the biblical passage where it says, though you've exalted yourself up into heaven, you shall be dragged down to hell. I could just imagine that if this situation occurs with La Palma, that this will become the sounding trumpet for Israel, that biblical prophecy has been fulfilled. And many Christians would follow suit. But what's sad is that people don't realize who is behind La Palma right now, who has created this massive volcano to come to life. Why then do we have all these 4,222 tremors going on in La Palma? And you knew about it before it even started. I'd already published it to you guys, that there was the intel that China and Russia would try to do. They would use a device to help set this off. And so here we put that information out. Now you see it happening. Russia's out of the equation, but China was not. Israel is the one that controls China and what goes on there. Israel has already said that China would be the next world superpower. And then we see these types of events happening, not only to affect the east coast of the United States and bring the United States down to its knees, but also would affect Rome, Italy. And if it actually brings the Vatican down, then they would actually blow the horn that this is all happening. And isn't it suspect, as I reported to you the other day, that Naftali Bennett is now ruling Israel with an iron fist? Yes. And you know the story behind that. We can't really share that here, but you know that story behind that, right? So let me continue on with my notes here that I have on this. Jupiter getting hit creates additional challenges. We've already discussed that right there. This is another thing that's very important as well. With all this happening, with the situation of what you see in La Palma, and also knowing that what is supposed to, I don't want to say definitely with November, because I don't like to use that it's an absolute given that they're going to have these impacts. As I said, they constantly are trying to do something to put a stop to it. But let's say it does not, they can't stop these asteroids, and it does affect our coastlines. You'll find this interesting to know here than this next part right here. Biden initially, when he was coming in as president, they anticipated a possibility of a civil war in this nation. And so he had contracted with China to bring them in to put down any such rebellion. Since then, I have been updated that a lot of senators are now and have been recently reaping very handsome monetary rewards from China. Think about it. And as a result of that, they have now changed the reasons for bringing China in. No longer is it limited to civil unrest in this nation, but they have now made it possible for China to come in the case of natural disasters, and to help the United States with their military to deal with natural disasters. It has been publicized that China has or not publicized, but it is being put out by these senators that China has a major invested interest in the United States, and this is what they're using to justify bringing in the Chinese, because they need to be able to protect the asset they have here. Isn't that interesting? Very interesting. So China is being prepared to come in the case of a natural disaster. We have La Palma as a possibility. We have Italy maybe Rome could go down or be destroyed, or even if it didn't go down, if it was just destroyed because of seismic activity that gets created from all this that's going on. Israel wags the tail for China. Israel, as I was told yesterday, the plan has now been set in motion for the New World Order, and Israel is the headstone for that program. And you can only imagine everything that goes with that. And then how that people would interpret this as biblical prophecy being fulfilled. How that we have the situation of the Chinese preparing to come in for natural disaster, and yet we know November, they say that these rocks are coming in heavy and they will majorly affect the United States, both east and west coast. Forget La Palma. If La Palma doesn't work, they got the other rocks coming in. All right. So this could be one of the reasons why these things are going to be allowed to transpire, right? So let me just see. I think we've got everything else pretty much. Oh, there's one other thing here I'll just quickly mention to you here. I'm going to be doing a video here for you guys as well about Elon Musk. I know Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are desperately trying to get off planet Earth. They are making preparations. They want to go to Mars. I'm going to do a special broadcast on that because there's some very interesting things that's going on that issue there. But the United States is going to disclose next year that we have made contact with extraterrestrial life. They have decided which extraterrestrial life you're going to find out about, and I found that very interesting. I thought they were going to let you know about the Venetians, but they're not. They're going to let you know that we have made contact with the Nordics, better known as the Tall Whites. And one of the reasons for that is because they look human. And although they're very tall compared to us as a general rule, not to say that we don't have tall people like they are, but this is what is going to be disclosed to the general public so that it's more conducive for human consumption. They don't want you to see the reptilians or the Dracos or the mantis, the flesh-eating type of aliens that have invaded this planet already. But that's what they're planning on doing. So I want to make sure you are aware of that. We'll go into that in another broadcast a little bit later. But at any rate there. Oh, and let me also mention to you real quick here. Let's see. Actually, these storms there, I've been watching these storms a little bit closer. I can't seem to pull that one up there. Let me see if we can get it. It still doesn't want to pull up there. Let's see here if we can pull this one up. Why is it not letting me pull that up? Let me go to the National Hurricane Tracker here. We are on very close verge here of this storm right here, or this tropical depression forming into a hurricane. It's now at a 90% chance there. And with Odette, which is a tropical storm up as high as it is, that's going to help keep this one pushed kind of low. So looks like we may end up with another major hurricane coming towards the United States there in a very short period of time, with another storm in behind it at a 40% chance. But right now they're saying 90% chance it will turn into a hurricane. And it does seem to have some very good formation. Want to make sure you're aware of that. And then also, too, I popped up on the USGS this morning, and it's like every day is worse than the day before. Look at the number of earthquakes on the United States, all the way, looks like from Texas all the way to the West Coast there. That's actually Oklahoma. Oklahoma, earthquakes in Oklahoma. We've got another one in Oklahoma, and just tons of them in California and Alaska, just enormous number of earthquakes. And as I was told in the briefing yesterday, what you're seeing on the USGS is nowhere near the number that are happening and nowhere near the magnitudes that are happening, that this is actually suppressed information. But down in California, 4.3. You got like about 7 different earthquakes just on the West Coast here, just since yesterday. Up in Alaska, they're showing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 earthquakes up in Alaska. So and when you back out, it's like, you normally pop this open and you see one here or there or something like on California, not in the United States, not like the United States blanketed in these things. And then you get over there, as you follow that ring of fire around, you get the Kuril Islands up in Russia. You're getting 4.5s, 5.0s, things like that. Japan, all the way down to Solomon Islands there, up above 5s. Just enormous number of earthquakes going on this whole ring of fire there. So that, it tells you something's going on, if nothing else. Anyway, I'm Steve Ben-Nun. You're listening to Israeli News Live here on Patreon. God bless you. Listen, always have your faith in Jesus Christ. No matter what comes our way, we know, even though the end may be near, He is our saving grace and our only way and our only trust and hope. God bless you, and thank you for listening.